Marvin is in his early 30s and utterly unsuccessful. Currently, he works as a clerk in the evidence department of a police station, but his ultimate goal is to become a policeman. The reason Marvin wants to be a policeman so desperately is that his father was killed on duty. He wants to pay homage to his father, but at the rate his life is going, the dream might never come true. The next day is the selection for the police force. It turns out, in the last selection process, Marvin didn't just fail, but humiliated himself after peeing his pants. The competition starts, and Marvin is immediately behind everyone, forgetting which way he should run. He makes several foolish mistakes throughout the course and fails the test again. It doesn't come as a surprise to anyone, as the entire police force is used to seeing Marvin lose. Back at home, Marvin is watching TV when a particular commercial attracts his attention. It is advertising a supplement made of 25% badger milk, which magically makes men gain muscles. Fascinated by the women in the commercial, Marvin decides to get a can for himself. The next day at work, Marvin is left alone in the office while the rest of the crew goes outside to play baseball. Just then, he gets a phone call from a lady complaining about a group of robbers threatening to kill people. Marvin quickly informs his colleagues through a microphone, but they do not hear him in the field. He thinks of it as a chance to prove his worth and decides to go to the location himself. He hopes to save the day and become everyone's hero, but the plan goes downhill when he is met with an accident on the way. His vehicle flies off the road and down a hill. When it gets dark, a man in a gorilla costume comes to his rescue and drags him to a hideout. The man happens to be a doctor who fixes Marvin and keeps him back at the crash site. Upon waking up, Marvin is confused, but the memory of the crash soon comes back to him. He is glad he doesn't have a single broken bone and doesn't remember the doctor at all. Following that, he returns home, still hazy from the medicines he was given. A dog that used to always attack him leaps at him once again, but strangely enough, it stops midway and runs back to its kennel. The special bodybuilding supplement has been delivered to his house. Although it doesn't look appetizing, Marvin gulps it down, hoping to gain superhuman strength. After the shower, he wiggles himself like a dog to dry off. He doesn't think much of it, but when he turns around, that day, he returns to work and finds out he's been missing for an entire week. His friends ask him to go to the doctor, but Marvin feels better than ever. What he doesn't know is that the doctor who treated him after the crash has replaced his damaged organs with those of animals. Because some parts of the brain were exchanged for a dog's, Marvin has gained some characteristics of a dog. Similarly, he also feels the emotions of a bird, a cat, a horse, and many other animals. During his morning jog, Marvin surprises himself by racing a horse. He attributes it to the special supplement he ate yesterday and is happy that it worked. He also bumps into a woman named Rihanna walking her dogs in the park. She is an animal lover and was recently on the news for spending an entire night on a tree. As they talk, Marvin notices a man throwing a frisbee. He cannot suppress his urges and ends up catching the frisbee with his mouth. Later that day, he goes to meet a friend at the airport. Because of his heightened sense of smell, he can tell that a man has illegal substances on him. The security checks the guy at Marvin's request, but doesn't find anything. However, an adamant Martin stops the guy again and brings out a package he had hidden inside his behind. Everyone claps for Marvin, praising his intelligence and bravery. Because of his contribution, he is finally deemed fit to be a police officer. Sticking your nose up other people's butts, a surefire way to get ahead in any industry. After years of waiting, the day finally comes when he is appointed to duty. Later, he is on his way back home when the doctor who treated him after the crash stops him. His name is Dr. Wilder, a mad scientist who is obsessed with human-animal fusion. He tells Marvin the truth about his newfound abilities. The doctor wanted to see how Marvin will adapt to life as a new person, but now that he is gaining attention, he has to be sustained. When Marvin refuses to oblige, he is hit with a tranquilizer gun. According to the doctor, soon Marvin won't be able to suppress his animalistic urges, which might create trouble for the people around him. Still, Marvin refuses to be confined as an animal and runs away from the barn where he was abducted. A few days later, the doctor's concerns come to life when Marvin starts digging into the trash for bones thrown by his colleagues. But more problems arise as his sexual needs start escalating. Upon seeing women on the street, he cannot help but to hump a mailbox. He even feels attracted to a catfish because of how its mouth looks. I feel like we have a word for this in modern society. On the brighter side, he starts feeling more compassionate towards animals and impresses Rihanna by feeding a bird with his mouth. She is an animal lover and owns a lot of them. The duo becomes closer because of their shared interest. The following morning, Marvin wakes up in a meat shop with his belly protruding out of his shirt. He immediately goes to the doctor and asks him for help. Dr. Wilder wants to keep him as a pet, but Marvin insists that he is happy in his life as a policeman. He only needs some assistance. Hence, the doctor teaches him how to endure and suppress the urges. He makes Marvin eat a lot of meat and trains him like a dog. The next day, Marvin and the sergeant go out to a farm to investigate some missing animals. Marvin carries toys and treats with him to distract himself whenever he gets the urge to do something that he shouldn't. On the farm, Marvin's eyes land upon a goat who has been separated from the other animals because they cannot resist her. Strangely enough, Marvin also feels the same, but is kicked away by the animal before he can get too close to her. On their way back, the sergeant sees Rihanna walking her dogs. Unaware that she is interested in Marvin, he hits on her. When Rihanna rejects him for his junior, the officer's ego is hurt. As a result, he makes it his mission to get Marvin kicked out of the police force. Following the interaction, the two go to a high-profile party organized by the city's mayor. Everything goes well until a cat snarls at Marvin and triggers his dog-like urges. He disturbs the entire party to chase after the cat. In the end, he has to be stopped by his colleagues. The mayor is furious at him for ruining the party. He asks the head of the police to kick Marvin out as soon as he gets the chance. Right then, Marvin hears a splash and follows the sound. It turns out the mayor's son has dropped into a pond and is drowning. Marvin jumps just at the right moment to save the kid. The mayor is beyond thankful to him. Alongside all the guests, even the sergeant starts respecting Marvin after the incident. Later that day, Marvin and Rihanna go out to a restaurant on a date. Marvin keeps his urges in check for the most part, but when Rihanna goes to the washroom for a while, he pees under the table after smelling it. Rihanna returns and recognizes the horrible smell, but Marvin passes it as the restaurant's fault. As they chat, her dress slips off her shoulder. An animal like Marvin cannot control himself anymore, so he goes to the washroom to finish his business. Seconds after returning, he notices her turning around and has to make a second trip to the bathroom. Throughout the dinner, Marvin notices a waiter trying to flirt with Rihanna and getting a little too close to her. Later, he finds the man outside the restaurant and attacks him out of jealousy. Upon returning home, Rihanna invites Marvin inside, but he doesn't want to risk attacking her, so he politely declines the offer. But instead of returning home, he subconsciously goes on a rampage on the nearby farm. In the following scene, the farm owner is at the police station, complaining about a beast who attacked his animals last night. The head officer recognizes the culprit's sketch and calls Marvin to his office. As the man scolds Marvin for his inhuman behavior, Marvin licks his legs and crotch area. In the end, he is suspended from the police force for a month to work on himself. A few days pass before we see him again. Rihanna goes to his house and finds it turned into a nest with hay and branches everywhere. Marvin wants her to go away for her own safety because he doesn't trust himself. However, Rihanna knows that he is having problems but still trusts him. When she insists on staying the night, Marvin comes up with a solution and asks her to tie his hands. But things get steamy pretty quickly and they end up spending the night together. Since Marvin's hands are not bound, he goes on a rampage yet again. In the morning, he wakes up beside Rihanna. Before the two can enjoy time together, the police arrives outside the house. This time, they are sure that Marvin was behind the chaos that occurred at night. Rihanna, knowing that Marvin is innocent, makes him run out the window. Using his new skills, Marvin is able to get away from the police. But the news about him being a cow assaulter makes it to the television. The city's finest officers and civilians join hands to organize a search party for him. They are all armed and ready to kill Marvin as soon as they find him. In the meantime, Marvin is running through the woods when he comes across Dr. Wilder up a tree. The doctor says he was picking apples, but his dart gun proves otherwise. Upon being urged to tell the truth, he reveals that he performed the exact same experiment on someone else, and that person is the one killing the animals, not Marvin. They set out to look for the person, but the doctor fractures his foot, leaving Marvin on his own. When no one is around, we see the doctor take his socks off to reveal his animal-like foot. Gross. The sergeant has set up a piece of meat in the middle of the forest. Marvin falls right into his trap and leaps for the meat, only to be showered with bullets. He somehow manages to climb a tree without getting shot. After a long chase, the sergeant almost falls off a cliff, but is saved by Marvin. When asked why he saved his rival, Marvin replies that he is not an animal. Still, the sergeant stays true to his duty and points his gun at him. Right then, Rihanna jumps up on top of him and knocks him out, revealing that she is also Dr. Wilder's patient. She hopes that the revelation doesn't change anything between her and Marvin's relationship. Marvin agrees, and the two kiss. But then, the mob surrounds the duo, wanting to kill both of them. Marvin's friend Miles takes the blame for everything, revealing that he killed the animals. Upon finding out that a black man was responsible, the police don't want to take action anymore. They disperse, as if nothing ever happened. What a crazy joke to end this movie on. 1 year later, Marvin and Rihanna are married and have 2 children of their own. While watching television, they see Dr. Wilder win the Nobel Prize for his experiments. He credits his fiancée, Yolanda, and kisses her to display large scars on her back, implying that she is also half human and half animal. Subscribe for more videos like this, turn on notifications, and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.